Did you ever daydream of being a superhero as a child? As the protector of justice and defender of all that is good? Most kids did, I'm sure, making your own secret bases with your best buds and sharing in adolescent fantasies crafted around the stories you read in comics and manga. Far from being unusual, these are the common occurrences that make us look upon our childhoods with a familiar nostalgia. But of course, when making those heroic tales, there's no way you can have a great hero without a cunning villain to act as their foil. Who is Light without L? Young Wenli without Reinhard? Gon without the perverted and depraved Clown Man? And so you would construct these cool, complicated, villainous schemes that the great hero would have to battle against. Huge robots, anti-proton bombs, killer viruses that suck the blood out of your body akin to the horrors of Bram Stoker's Dracula. And then, you grew up. You witnessed those fragments of your imagination disappear with the other childish hopes you once had, and you submit yourself to the all-encompassing system that crushes hopes and subjects you to the monotony of the world. Life. But what if those nefarious ideas you thought up for the villain weren't dismissed as the naive aspirations of young children? What if you woke up one day only to realize that a man was beginning to carry out those villainous schemes you once daydreamed of to their most horrifyingly real extent? Huge robots, anti-proton bombs, killer viruses. Those childhood fantasies are now coming to life and terrorizing the world. And you and your friends are the only ones who might have the key to stopping it all, as the ones who created this plan so many years ago. This is the story of 20th Century Boys by Naoki Urasawa, renowned mangaka and creator of other beloved manga series, Monster. The story follows Endo Kenji, a normal convenience store manager just trying to get by. He's long forgotten many of those lofty aspirations he once had, as most kids do. He abandoned his teen love for the guitar and rock and roll, and having to take care of his missing sister's baby daughter ties him down to a life he's not particularly satisfied with. However, things quickly begin to take a turn in this ordinary life when one of his childhood friends, Donkey, yes, that was his nickname, Donkey, commits suicide. And a new cult begins to extend its reach into every crack and crevice of society, led by a charismatic man they call Friend. And Kenji soon realizes that this cult is enacting a scheme far more sinister than it seems on the surface: world domination. And it's all according to the master plan that Kenji and his friends once drew up as children. As Kenji becomes tangled up in vast conspiracies and dangerous mysteries, he is left with no other choice but to abandon the peace he once had in life. In order to wage war against this overwhelming power that is Friend and his followers and prevent what they will enact onto the world, Kenji must gather his old friends who have all embarked on their own paths of life and, unexpectedly, become the heroes of justice they once aspired to be. Just as Naoki Urasawa did with Monster before this, not only does he write compelling and tragic main characters, but even more so, brilliant and eternally memorable villains. Friend follows in the footsteps of Johann Liebert by being one of the most utterly mysterious, compelling, sadistic, and devilish antagonists to step foot onto a manga page. In this way, both stories follow a similar narrative, in that the hero, Tenma in Monster, and Kenji and his friends in 20th Century Boys must unravel the twisted story of their respective nemeses, who were, ironically, birthed out of the actions of the heroes themselves, and they must stop them. It sets the foundation for a beautiful dynamic between the two main characters, in a sense, as the protagonist carries the burden of guilt for every action the antagonist takes, knowing that they were the ones who allowed this to happen. Friend's desire to rule the world is both insatiable and ingenious, with the funny contrast being that his intricate master plan is simply taken out of the old drawings of a group of prepubescent boys in the 70s. In this sense, Kenji and his friends lay out the plan for exactly how anyone with enough determination could rule the world, as Friend follows just that. But how are you supposed to rule the world without knowing all of its languages? This video about 20th Century Boys is brought to you by Rosetta Stone, an excellent language learning program that can immerse you in no time, in whatever language you choose. 子供の頃から日本語をわかるのがとってもかっこいいと思ってきたので、3年前、サブタイトルを読まずにアニメを見るためや日本語で書かれた漫画を読むために日本語を勉強し始めた。現在、日本語をわかるようになってきたけど、まだまだ上手じゃないと思うから、もっと自分で勉強したよ。授業で日本語を勉強するなら、試験だけのために習って、あまり便利じゃないと思う。でも、ロゼットストーンを使ったら、会話できるようになるし、聞く練習できるし、それに複雑な漢字の読み方を習えるよ。If you want to watch anime without subtitles, or simply just learn Japanese or any other language for that matter, おすすめだよ。The lifetime subscription for Rosetta Stone is normally $299, but if you click on the link in my description, you get it almost 50% off. This means that you pay only $180 for interactive Japanese study materials for life. You can take it at whatever pace you want and only have to pay once for a lifetime of learning. And if you end up buying it and realize that you don't want it, it's all okay because there's still a 30-day refund for your full money back. So click on my exclusive link below if you're interested. Otherwise, Friend will have you purged. I'm joking. Or am I? One of the most beautiful aspects of 20th Century Boys and Naoki Urasawa's stories in general is exactly that. The unpredictability of characters and the blurred lines that they have between good and evil. Though it often feels in stories that anyone against the protagonist is evil, for example, many shonen manga make this distinction simple and obvious, for the sake of building up a brave and strong hero who stood up against the incarnation of evil itself. One of the main lines of questioning that 20th Century Boys investigates is who is good. Kenji and his friends are fighting to protect the world, yes, but they're defending it from their own machinations. On the other hand, Friend's plan, though it does include taking innumerable lives and hurting millions, is one that also unites the lost souls of the world under his cult's wing, under the guise that he is, in fact, their friend. And who's to say that he actually isn't? Further adding to this, 20th Century Boys follows the cast of characters through many different eras of their lives, with time skips aplenty, going from 1969 as children all the way until 2018. This allows us to personally witness the changes in each character over time, and how their upbringing has molded them into who they are in the future, how the battle against Friend changes them, their hopes, and their idea of what is truly evil. As exemplified in the manga's title, much of the story revolves around Kenji and his friends when they were young boys, as the root of, well, everything. Like how the rise of rock music in the late 60s made Kenji into a hopeful musician and firm believer in the culture of freedom and authenticity that the music brought with it. Likewise, after learning bits and pieces of Friend's story, you begin to see his motives, what it stems from, and why he would use Kenji's childhood plan of all things to enact world domination. All of Kenji's friends have traveled their own paths as adults. Not all of them are fully on board to risk their lives to supposedly save the world. They have families, or they've left the past behind them. This story is one of the few times where the entirety of its huge cast truly have their own personality, in my opinion. Their own arcs and stories that truly make the title 20th Century Boys befitting, rather than focusing on a single one of the boys or a single character. In fact, I'd say that a lot of the manga doesn't even directly follow Kenji. Though he and Friend are at the epicenter of it all, Urasawa's attention to everyone else fleshes out this story in a non-linear and immensely imaginative way. And to return to the idea of blurred lines between good and evil, when you look at all these other members of the cast, the story asks, Are you good if you decide not to abandon everything to take up arms against a supervillain in what seems like little more than a childhood fantasy and instead stay back to support your family? Or are you evil for choosing not to save the world when you had the chance? Is Kenji evil for bringing his friends into this, risking their lives, when the burden of it all really weighs on his shoulders? These are the questions you consider as you read the story, and it's the questions the characters themselves consider as well. Many of the characters have a sense of guilt as they debate these questions, but they never really get answered. Because, of course, it's simply not that easy. Because of this tender balance between good and evil, Kenji and Friend are not like light and darkness, not opposites, but more akin to two sides of the same coin. More so than anything else, 20th Century Boys reflects the importance of life, in many different facets of that meaning. For one, simply the importance of persistence in life. What's great about witnessing a story that occurs over such a long period in these characters' lives is that you can see them fall, and witness whether they stay down or get back up and keep trying. Against an all-encompassing, almost omniscient force like Friend, with allies in every corner, how can you keep telling yourself that you can win? How can you devote your life to a battle you may never see the end of? But a great manga never shoves these ideas down your throat. 20th Century Boys does it through subtle details. They ask these questions through the discussion of a game of bowling, or over a measly bowl of ramen, only a few words shared. But you begin to understand the importance of self-reflection once you get older, and as these characters get older as well. Considering what has brought you to where you are, and whether this is what makes you happy. And is there a point to doing it if it doesn't? How lasting relationships make life worth living, and the importance of forgetting and forgiving others and atoning over time. There is so much to take away from this story in even its smallest moments. It makes you reconsider the way you've lived your life, and the impact that your formative years have on who you become. More than telling you the explicit way to rule the world, 20th Century Boys offers insight into how perhaps the key to making the world you want to live in and molding it to your own ideas lies in your imagination. It's a read that can't be passed up on. If you got this far, thank you for being patient while I kind of took a break from the channel. I've got more in store over the summer, and keep an eye out. It'll be great. Also, do check out Rosetta Stone if you're interested. Make sure to click on the link below in my bio. Thanks, guys. As always, this has been the Anime Culture Corner. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for future in-depth show, manga, and character analyses.